ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Fight for Our Freedom Radio. And I'm your host, Badbaby. And tonight we have with us Terral from Terral, http03.com. And we are going to have a great show out here tonight. We are going to talk about, quite a few things, but I want to find out about the Black Star. And we also, towards the very end, we are going to let people call in, maybe ask a couple questions. But we do have quite a bit of information to get out here tonight. Welcome to the show tonight, Terral. How are you?
Doing great, thank you very much for having me. Appreciate the opportunity to share information about my current project, Project Black Star, and kind of how we got here. And really looking forward to it.
I'm really looking forward to it, too, and it looks like everybody out here is looking forward to it. The room is starting to fill up. For those that are my current listeners that aren't familiar with you, why don't you tell them a little bit about your web page, how you got involved into researching some of this, and also about your books and where we can go to get them.
Okay, very good. My website is TERRAL03.com, Terral03.com. That's my name, Terral, my first name. And the story starts, what I actually do is I'm a Bible scholar, and it seems kind of funny going from the Bible to science, but this is kind of where I was led. I intended just working on my Bible work, and I discovered something really amazing in Scripture. It's the three witnesses of God's Word, Spirit, Blood, and Water, and they're everywhere. There's charts of it, and I've got an hour and a half of videos on my website down at the bottom there on the left, and my book's there, The Mystery Explained, in the PDF form there. You can get all that information for free. There's a 2-hour radio show from my radio show over at Revolution Radio, Terral Investigates. So I dedicated 2 hours just for that topic. So that's down in the Bible section there. And wrote that book in 2005. Then I got a calling to work on the 9/11 investigation. Worked on that for 5 years. Found out the truth about the Cheney Rumsfeld Black Operation, and wrote that book in 2010. So there's an hour and a half of videos there. It's 6 videos in each section there, and it'll give you the truth, the way that from my perspective, on exactly what happened on 9/11, and what that does for Project Black Star is help to show you the enemy, who the real enemy is, the banksters, the House of Rothschild, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's chapter number 11. If you're not going to read the whole book, just chapter number 11. It's a 100-point timeline. It's been examined carefully by people like Dick Eastman and Jim Mars, who interviewed me on his radio show, and they say it's the best work that they've ever seen. It lists the top 100 events in chronological order. Some of those are divided by hundredths of a second. I'm from a Navy family. My brother's in the Navy. My nephew right now is a recruiter in the Navy, and they are meticulous timekeepers, and I am too. There's a timeline for my scripture work. There's a timeline for 9/11 work, and there's timelines for Project Black Star too. So it's wrapped up that investigation and went back to my Bible work. Never expected to be working with brown dwarfs or Project Black Star or anything like that, but on December 10th, 2010, right after I finished this book, then this story came out about the Elenin Comet. Elenin is 9/11 backwards, and the perihelion date, the date that this comet that was discovered in the Leo constellation, the perihelion date, that means whenever an object is nearest the sun going maximum velocity, was 9/11/2011, exactly 10 years to the day after the 9/11 attacks. So I started looking, and Leonids, that was the guy that discovered the comet, they say, because I tried to contact him. I really don't think that's a real person. But his name means meteor showers in November, and his last name is 9/11 backwards. So after doing the keyword analysis on the 9/11 Commission Report, for example, and the Arlington County After Action Report, and on the Bible and the Quran, and that's really what I do. I'm a keyword guy, and I can tell you after doing document analysis, if there's keyword sanitation, give you things like that. I can tell you where the word faith appears in Scripture, where it never appears. Those are the things that I really, really love as an investigator, and found some amazing things in Scripture, by the way, but also found out that the word explosions does not appear in the 9/11 Commission report even one time.
Really?
And it also doesn't appear in the Arlington County After Action report even one time. Both of those documents have the singular term explosion exactly 6 times. And that's evidence of keyword sanitation, and that's what the lettered agencies did. That's what the Justice Department did when they finalized the document. So after running those 2 investigations, I just looked at this Ellen deal and felt drawn to it the same way that I was drawn to do the 9/11 investigation, because it's actually a continuation of the same thing. Then Jim Mars, we became kind of friends there after a while. He interviewed me on his show. I interviewed him a couple times, and he sent me a report called the Dakota Report. Inside the Dakota Report, in the notes especially, but near the end, they began describing Project Black Star. And the reason for this paper, the Dakota Report, is they wanted to stop genocide associated with Project Black Star. And there was these other projects that needed to come along with it. Began running that investigation, analyzing those documents, and there was definitely something there. And that led me to join multiple astronomy groups. Astro Patriot, one that maybe some of your listeners have heard of, and some other groups, because I didn't know anything about astronomy, but this is where I felt led to go, so that's exactly what I did. And then, let's see, where should I go from there?
On the Dakota Report, tell us a little bit about what's in there.
Okay, Dakota Report was sent out. I didn't get it off the internet. I got it from Jim Mars, and it was put out by lettered agency operatives looking for amnesty from the American people, as if they were presenting additional information to the 9/11 attacks, which they actually didn't present much of anything new. But that's from my perspective after looking over all the documentation. And so I wrote a 7-page analysis, and that is inside the Dakota Report, and my 7-page analysis is in the Dropbox folder that I have for my newsletter subscribers. So you go to terral03.com, you see there's a subscription button there. It's $25 per year, and then you get access to tons of lots of information that I think is important, stuff that's in the Dropbox folder there for you. That's just one of the documents. But if you Google it now, I mean, whenever I first did this document wasn't even available, but now I see CIT guys, that's a 9/11 investigation crew. They're actually working. They're working for the State Department. That's a lettered agency operation that they're running there. But anyway, a lot of times the lettered agency guys get you access to information you just can't get in other places. You just have to realize that they're going to put a slant on it. They're going to turn it, twist it, and make it into something else. So you can get it on the internet, and then you're going to find out about Project Black Star there at the end. And that I was calling this thing a heavy mass object before that. I didn't realize that I was already engaged in Project Black Star until a couple of years into the investigation after doing that analysis for Jim Mars. But whenever the investigation started, a paper came out. Mincer Armour Bossich, he wrote a paper to Cornell, +6 seismicity paper. You can Google that too. And he associated a seismic pattern to the Ellen Comet in his paper going back to 1965. And that really interested me. But one of the important things early on in the investigation is that I was tracking, as a timekeeper, tracking Ellen coming in, and it was stagger stepping. If you go to Google and you keyword Russian warning Ellen controlled, it came out March 1st, 2011. And they saw the same thing that I saw, which is impossible. If you're going to change the inbound velocity, then it's going to change the perihelion date. It's going to be sliding back and forth like a slide rule kind of.
Mm-hmm.
But the perihelion date never changed. That's impossible. So the Russians saw that this thing was stagger stepping coming in. So it's like when you're getting ready to go up a series of stairs, the way you approach it, you stagger your steps to make it coincide. That's what I noticed. That's what they noticed. But anyway, what I was able to do with the data was make a prediction that we were going to have a big event on March the 15th, 2011. I already knew that we were going to be passing between the Earth and whatever's out there in Leo around the middle of March, and my prediction was for March 15th, 2011, and that turned out to be Fukushima, right? And the Earth axis shift there was 4 inches, and I was actually sitting in a fellow's front yard. I drove my travel trailer. I've been living in my travel trailer since 2009, since the H1N1 scare. I'm sure a lot of your listeners remember that. There's something definitely going on here with our government, and I want to be mobile. So what I've been doing is hooking up survival groups. Patriotic Space Mike and his group I was working with at the time. And when Fukushima happened, I was in my travel trailer in his front yard in North Carolina. And so anyway, then Mr. Armorbosich came out with his paper, and I realized this Elenin comet it's a comet. It can't cause seismicity. It's not heavy enough. But there's something else that's here. But I received a lot of criticism because I was sucked in by the psychological operation. That's what Elenin was. It's a psyop put on by the lettered agencies, and I was sucked in by it. And I wrote on the topic that it was a psyop. I knew it was a psyop, but I thought they were hiding the black star. I didn't realize that Elenin was going to pass on through, and the seismic pattern was going to continue, which I know now. So they said that Elenin was destroyed, but then they continued to track Elenin. NASA's still tracking it right now as if it was still intact, which really doesn't make any sense, does it? You're not going to find any pictures of Elenin's tail or the coma forming or anything like that, because the whole thing was a psychological operation. So it was shortly after that Jim Marrs interviewed me. That was October 12th, 2011. If you go to the RENS network, then they finally talked Jim Marrs. Jim Marrs turns down about 60 radio interview requests per month. And the idea that he just doesn't have time to do his own radio show, the RENS network talked him into it, and they asked him, who do you want to have as your first radio guest? And he perked up real fast and said, I want to have that Terral guy on. So that was his. If you go to the page there, Google it, you'll go all the way to the bottom, and you'll see the link there. And that's another radio interview that I did on a telephone, just like this. And so you might be able to glean a little bit of something from there, but I really didn't know what I know now about Project Black Star. I didn't know it then. So I'm kind of giving you a breadcrumb trail that's leading me up to this. Mr. Armorbosich's paper was very important because that's what identified the seismic pattern. And then whenever Elenin came on through, I realized that there was something wrong with that because the seismic pattern continued. The next year I made the prediction for the Guerrero quake and made press releases and things, and that was within 2 days. I thought it would be on March the 22nd. It turned out to be March the 20th. And we had the same 24 precursor quakes, 4 to 6 magnitude, and that's what got me on Clive Lewis's show out there in California. And I think we had 800,000 listeners that night. So there may be a record there of that too. I brought Deacon John. He does Liberation Nation over Revolution Radio, and that's where I am every Thursday, giving just a little plug there. That's where I give a Black Star Update report every Thursday, 4 to 6 Eastern time. So he was on my radio crew, Hijacker, and he did. Deacon John did he gave us information on what the government is doing and things like that. He's a real smart lawyer and stuff. And so anyway. As time went on, I started the newsletters in 2012, January 2012. I was living out in the woods. I lived in the Ozarks for a while, putting together survival groups, things like that. And I needed to find some means to have a little bit of income. That's whenever the newsletter started, and then everything is kind of snowballed from there. And let's see, after the Guerrero quake, well, on the way to the Guerrero quake, a pretty important event happened, the magnetopause reversal. Magnetopause reversal. Our planet is surrounded by the magnetosphere, which is a magnetic bubble, and the bow shock always faces the sun because it's compressed by the solar wind. Then you have the magnetotail that is pushed by it's like a lady's hair blowing in the wind behind the Earth. On March the 12th, 2012, that the bow shock turned around and faced the area space between the Leo constellation and the Virgo constellation, not for an hour, but for 28 hours. And whenever this happened, then it didn't surprise me a bit because out of 88 constellations, this is the same exact location where my black star was. So the only force that can turn Earth magnetosphere around for 28 hours is going to be the influence of another star. That's the only way. Not only that, and this is the smoking gun evidence right here. The same exact day, if you Google it, March 12th, 2012, dust storms kicked up on Mars. And the scientists are baffled about it. But whenever you stop the orbit diagram, you're going to find out that Mars was directly behind Earth in orbit, and that the magnetopause reversal and the Martian dust storms kicked off at the very same time. And that both of those, that's the best evidence that I have so far. That there's a lot of evidence. We can talk all night just on Project Black Star, the evidence. But that's the best evidence that there is something out there, and I've been tracking it from the Leo constellation through the Virgo constellation now, and I've been making predictions on the earthquakes that happen on the near side when the Earth passes between the Earth and the Black Star, and when we're on the back side of the Sun. I'm able to predict them far, far in advance. This recent event we just had with Nepal, and then we had several 7-magnitude quakes right after that too. But the ones after Nepal had the associated solar flares. Now it's going to get a little bit technical there, but what that is caused by is magnetic portal connection. Whenever these magnetic portal connections, they connect the Sun and the Earth, right? They connect and disconnect on 8-minute cycles. And there's a Black Star magnetic portal connection. When they start getting close to one another, you get portal-to-portal cross-firing, electromagnetic cloud formation, and then the Sun senses that and starts launching these flares. In 2011, we had more X-class flares in March and September than the rest of the year combined. And these solar flares are kicking off with my near-side alignment and back-side alignment events. They happen after the near-side alignment event on the near side and just before on the back side. And again, that's because of magnetic portal connection, convergence, crossing, and divergence. Portal-to-portal cross-firing. So I know on this orbit cycle, I had difficulty 2014 and 2013 of telling which of the quake events was my event because there were so many. Last year we had an 8-magnitude earthquake. We had 6 7-magnitude earthquakes. We had 19 6-magnitude earthquakes in a 19-day period. And I could not tell for the life of me because they were happening so they were just bam, bam, bam. But this year the pattern was what was expected. We had the 7.8 Nepal quake on April 25th. And then I had my X-class flares whenever NASA and everybody else, suspicious observers, everybody said the Sun was quiet. They didn't expect any flares, but I did, and that was the exact reason why. So the thing that I'm getting at here is that there is a mountain of evidence out there that says that my gut feeling is right. Project Black Star that we read about in the code report is right too, and that there is a gigantic conspiracy going on here. If you watch 2012, the movie, if you watch Deep Impact, things like that, on the 2012 movie, the elite are running to their arc ships. In the real world, they're running to their arc cities, and that's what the Denver Airport underground city is about.
Yes.
That's where the CIA has set up their new operations center hub. That is also the place where the Council on Foreign Relations set up the New York group back in the 1930s. They launched a campaign into Denver, and they set up their operations there back in the 30s. And they have known about this Black Star for quite some time. Not only that, these cities that we're talking about are connected together, too. There's a brief overview of what's going on, of where I came from, starting in Scriptures, and Scripture talks about, like in the days of Noah, we had earth changes. You go to the days of Moses, and you had earth changes, and that's just about the right amount of time, separated by Nibiru coming every 3,600 years, according to the Sumerian tablets. So we have astrotheological evidence, we have historical precedent in the Sumerian tablets, and we have the scriptural evidence. If you read, going back to my Bible thing again, Acts chapter 3, start at verse 22 there's a prophet that's coming that Peter is quoting Moses saying is like me. And what I feel is this Black Star came in the days of Noah, and it came in the days of Moses, and this prophet that's coming is just like them. And that he's coming at the same time that the Black Star gets here. And then if you read Matthew 24 or Revelation, you see wormwood. You're going to see Christ quoting Joel 2 about the sun turning dark. And Revelation says black as sackcloth. And I'm seeing images of the sun with these giant coronal holes that's trying to turn black. At the same time, the sun is suffering symptoms right now of the electromagnetism being siphoned off through a star-to-star magnetic portal connection. I know that's kind of a mouthful, but the sun is telling us that something's coming. The heliosphere that surrounds our entire solar system, our heliosphere has shrunk 25% in the last 10 years. The reason is from my view and my perspective, the only thing that can do that is the same thing that causes the dust storms on Mars, the same thing that causes Earth's magnetosphere to turn around for 28 hours, the influence of another star. Thing is, this star, you can't see it. It's something between a black dwarf star and a neutron-type star, magnetar-type neutron star. Don't know exactly what it is, but if it is a black dwarf star, then if it's 50% larger than Earth, then it is half the mass of our sun. If it is a magnetar-type neutron-type star on the other end of the spectrum, if it's only 10 kilometers across, just 10 kilometers, it weighs twice the mass of our sun. That's what you get with these types of objects. And for those that think, well, if it was a star there, you could see it, you need to realize that the most common star in the Milky Way galaxy by far is a red dwarf. It's 70 to 80% of all stars. But when you look up at into the sky at night, you cannot even see one of them. Most of the stars you cannot see. This particular star, I know that you cannot see it. People want to send me pictures and stuff and say, is this the star? Is that? No, you cannot see it. It's impossible. We have Don the astronomer. He has his own observatory. He's been working with me for years now. And we know the observation window. We know the exact location. And we also know that we can't see it. Right? And part of the reason is the technology is not available. Mm-hmm. Part of the reason that the technology is not available is because 70 of the astronomers engaged in dark star imaging research are either murdered or they're missing. And that's from the Dead Astronomer Report. The only place you can get it on the internet that I know of is from Sheldon Day's website. He's one of my contributors for my newsletter, but it's also available in the Dropbox folder for all of my newsletter subscribers. Tons and tons of evidence in there. That's, I'm just hitting the highlights of it. But you could read for a year probably if you went through all of that information.
Mm-hmm. Now we got a few people that are asking if they can call in and ask questions. If you are on the phone, I do keep everybody muted because I get a lot of background noise. If you need to ask a question, why don't you just push *8, raise your hand, and we'll get to you as we can. Now, I want to ask you, is the government, going to extremes to keep this quiet? I know that there's been a lot of deaths with the astronomers, and what are your views on that?
I missed a word there. Is the government going to?
Well, they're keeping it covered up, and I know that there's been a lot of astronomers that have suicided, so to speak.
Right. Yeah, they're being suicided.
Yeah. I want to know what you think about that. What's your view on that?
Okay, let me give you an overview first. What you have going on in Washington, D.C. is a puppet government. So you're not going to get anything out of these people. That's just a bunch of liars. They have tickets to the underground arc cities, and they are not going to blow the cover on what's going. The real government in the United States is out of Denver, and that is the Council on Foreign Relations working groups. Mm-hmm. That's their hierarchy, then the working groups, and you have the Trilateral Commission that's centered there too, and the Bilderbergs that are there too, and now the addition of the CIA. So the CIA took over our government during the 9/11 attacks. That's what the continuity of government was about. Okay? So, for example, whenever the Benghazi stand-down order came, when Stevens was killed, he was a CIA operative, but he was exposing the gun running. CIA had to kill him. That's a black op. But the fake story that came out, the YouTube story and all that came out of Denver. Obama is a CIA operative. He is doing whatever Denver says. So all Obama is doing is not telling you where he was. Was he in the Situation Room or not in the Situation Room? He's not telling you anything. Hillary doesn't want to tell you anything. But they are not going to be caught for anything because the CIA is the one that's in control, and they are working directly with the Council on Foreign Relations working groups that are over here. And they have vast resources, far more than the government. We're talking House of Rothschild has more money than everybody else. Vast resources. These are the people that we need to be afraid of. It's the fascists, the fascism, the corporate elites. Those are the guys. It's not the government. It's these guys. Now, on their coattails comes in these puppets that are over here in Washington, D.C. They're not ever going to tell you anything. This is very well contrived, very well conceived, well orchestrated. So this, for example, the exercises that they're running right now, these are sleeper operations because lettered agency operatives, the military personnel, that are not going to the underground arc cities, we have to keep them from waking up. And we want to deploy them. I'm speaking as if I'm working for the House of Rothschild. We want them deployed directly into harm's way. That's what all these exercises globally. It's going on globally right now.
Right. Jade Helm, Operation Maple Leaf. You know, they've all got some kind of code name.
But the Georgia Guidestone agenda is going to be fulfilled, but it's not that they're going to come and kill you. The Black Star is going to do that.
You know, I always did think that the devastation was going to hit first, and then they were going to be like the mop-up crew, that they would come around and gather the bodies or whatever, you know.
Okay. Well, there's a twist there at the end.
Hey, give me the twist.
Okay, the H1N1 scare that came out, that was a test run. What they actually infected everyone with was a Herald strain. It's a carrier strain. It's not even intended to give people a runny nose. They want everybody to carry it. But it's the first half of a binary weapon. The second half of the binary weapon is artificial intelligence assisted. That is what hooks up. If you listen to Dr. Bill Deagle, he would tell you.
I've listened to him before.
Okay, that he'll tell you that the Spanish flu was the H1N1. It was the same thing.
Yeah.
It was created in Fort Detrick, with the exception that 2 amino acids were moved out. They were taken out. That was the teeth. That's what artificial intelligence puts back in. But first they had to break the 5-nanometer barrier. And I remember when they broke the 10-nanometer barrier, then they had to go 1 nanometer at a time. Remember that 1 nanometer is 80,000. A human hair is 80,000 nanometers. And they're trying to break the 5-nanometer barrier. The reason they're doing that is because then our AI, artificial intelligence, can communicate with the nanobots inside of you in order to reconstruct the amino acids with the proteins for the binary biological weapon. So the chemtrailing part, and we're just going to hit a few of these topics lightly, and then we can jump into them on other shows.
Yeah.
But chemtrailing, it's, you know, the barium that's in there is only so it's just like putting barium in your body. It's so that they can see it's the contrast medium. Okay, so they know where they're spraying this stuff. But the active ingredient is not the aluminum or the other. The active ingredient is the nano components. These nano components are not nanobots. And the stuff that lands on your skin, you are shedding cells way too quickly for any of that to even bother anything to do with you. But you breathe some of that stuff in, and it gets into your lungs. And then you cough that stuff up, and then you swallow it into your stomach. And once it gets into your stomach, it hits the acid environment, then the chipset starts to form. This is silicone-based chipsets. They grow to a predetermined diameter, and then they begin growing filaments on the edges, on the corners. Where the corners come together, those are the legs, the appendages, the antennae of, well, it looks under the microscope very much like a tick that's inside of you. Then the HARP, you guys know about HARP. It's a 1.5 hertz carrier wave, 7,285 feet tall. It's circling around our planet right now. And artificial intelligence is able to multi-frequency. It's like broadband on top of that carrier wave, and he is able to communicate to the nanobots that are inside your body using that medium. And then take it to the next level. They have a real-world simulation that's running in the Denver underground city there that's maintained by the Council on Foreign Relations and their working groups. They have a real-world simulation there. It's a stable environment. They can't put everybody in there. Some people are just enigmas. They can't create an algorithm for them. But a high percentage of the population are in there, and they are using artificial intelligence to communicate to the nanos inside of us so they can gather input data to send into the real-world simulation. They're doing that so that they can identify threats. They want to create a real world in there, and then they're going to change something. They're going to invent the new telescope, or they're going something. They just change and change and change. They're doing threat assessment and running these simulations, and AI can run millions of simulations very, very rapidly to determine who's the threat. And then they go back into the past and they eliminate the threat, which is our present. That's how these astronomers are being identified in the first place, not just astronomers, all kinds of people that are out there.
Yeah, well, it's bankers. A lot of the bankers are being suicided too.
Here's the thing. If you go into my Dropbox folder, you're going to see references to mystery virus, mystery illness. My chief astronomer before Don was a fella. Holy cow! Trouble remembering my own astronomer's name. It's going to come to me here in a second. He was killed using this technology that I'm talking about right here. Not only that, remember, my mother was killed. She went into the hospital the same day that he went to the hospital. Her lungs filled up with fluid. These are the symptoms. Lungs filling up with fluid, and then your body begins convulsing, and you begin having heart attacks. My mom never had a heart attack, never had a heart condition until she came out of the hospital with 13 of my researchers from Terral's research group. We had over 300 members globally, and in March of 2012, they started dying, and Stu Noodle, the European counterpart to my astronomer, he spent 7 weeks in the hospital. His lungs were filling up with fluid so quickly, they had to put tubes in there. He's having multiple heart attacks. He's only 34 years old. Good friend of mine, an administrator for my research group, Texas Jean, she was only 25 years old. They found her unconscious, like my mom was found unconscious. Many of these other people were found unconscious, taken to the hospital, mystery virus. Now, she was only 25 years old. She had to have a stent put in her heart. My sister-in-law had a stent put in her heart. 2 little nodes grew inside of her heart. She's totally clean. She doesn't have any plaque buildup or anything. The doctors could not explain why, but they had to run a stent into her too. So I'm seeing this type of activity that's happening to my research members, my astronomers, my family, and what I'm saying is they do not need to RFID chip you. They don't need your cell phone. They don't need any of this stuff. This is all smoke screening just to make you feel like that you're safe, because the nanites are already inside of you, and they're so small. We're talking 5 to 30 nanometers across, and even if they decided to kill you using that, then all they have to do, AI gives the command, and all the nanos stop holding hands, and your body's going to release them very, very quickly. So they've got a perfect method to eliminate their threats already. And I don't share a lot of this information. You asked about it whenever we talked earlier, because if it's difficult for me to give you a countermeasure, then why am I going to mention it to you so that you run your own investigation to make yourself a threat? See what I mean?
Yeah.
But I had to stop doing 7 radio shows a week. Now I just do 1. And I'm testing the waters coming here, because if I get ahead of the pace of going too fast, exposing too much, they find a way to slow me down. And I had adrenal exhaustion. I thought it was adrenal exhaustion, even though I never had it in my life, 3 times in 2012. And it looks more and more like that they were choking the crap out of me, trying to get me to shut up. And then
I know they can do that, choking. We've got some guests that are asking about calling in. Call in and push *8. We do have a guest that has been waiting. So
yeah, you go right ahead. Yeah, you take all the calls you want.
Let's unmute and see if we can get a call going here.
Okay.
Welcome to the call, guest 28. You have a question.
Yes. First of all, I do have a question. My name, I'm from northern Colorado. My name is Ray, and I want to give props to Terral Croft and all the work that you do, sir. I want to let you know that you've got listeners to your 15-minute broadcast for your Black Star update that cannot right now subscribe to your newsletter, but we appreciate the work that you do, and thank you.
Very, very good. Thank you.
I just want to let you know, some of us can't subscribe to your newsletter due to cost constraints, but we still value your information, sir, and you do a fantastic job. And when you got sick a couple weeks ago, I was praying for you, my friend.
I sure appreciate it.
I have a couple of comments about some questions, and it has to do with the plasma field that's coming off the Black Star area / Nibiru, and if our Earth passes into that plasma field, will it start potentially maybe creating a meteor shower by next March 26th about? And in the springtime.
Yeah, let's just stop right there, and then you can go to your next question.
Thank you, and I just have the one more.
Earth magnetosphere is going to protect us from just about all that kind of stuff. That's what the bow shock, that's what the magnetopause, that's what it's there for. And so that kind of stuff's just really going to bounce off. I don't see us having.
Okay.
And even if we have a meteor shower, then so what? So it's the chances of us being struck by an asteroid in our stable 4.4 billion year solar system is extremely remote. Extremely remote. Whenever you look at these guys, they are above the plane and below the plane. Whenever they fall out of orbit, then they are going to come in and cross Earth's orbit path on the inbound and once on the outbound, and they have to cross exactly on the plane with us, and the probability is going to be 0.000 something, way down there. Very, very difficult. First, I'm not even concerned about a threat from a meteor, even though in 2005 we only had 500 reports of meteors. And last year, that number was almost 4,000. So the numbers are really, really going up. You're hearing about meteors hitting buses and houses and stuff because it's really happening. It's really happened a lot. We're talking about the smaller stuff, but still, I'm not concerned about comets, asteroids, any of that kind of stuff. It's the magnetism coming from this star that's going to tip our Earth over. And it has to be nearer to us than the sun is because the sun has magnetic polarity control of our planet, 1 AU away, 1 astronomical unit, right? So we have to be in the right place at the right time, or the wrong place at the wrong time, depending on how you look at it, for us to be affected that way. And then before you get to your next question, what I want to say is, I'm poor, and I understand where you're sitting at. If you guys can make a donation, $1, anything, just so I can get your contact information, go to terral3.com. Just make whatever donation that you can. Don't hit the subscribe button. Go down below the Bible section, hit the donate button. And then lots of people send me $1 because they're in the same boat that we are. And what I'll do is I'm going to send you the Dropbox folder link so that you can access all the data, but that doesn't sign you up as a subscriber. In other words, I answer emails all morning long, 3, 4, 5 hours sometimes for subscribers. I'm not going to put you on that list, but you can darn sure have the Dropbox folder link giving you access to all the 2015 newsletters. If you'll just go to terral3.com, make a little donation. Okay, what's your next?
Thanks a lot for the offer on that donation. That is very encouraging. And again, there's so many of us I know across the United States that listen to you that just don't know how to get to that next level, but thank you for that info. And my next question briefly is around September 13th, and then the September 23rd or 24th, I think Obama is a president whom I pray for, but I don't agree with, is meeting with the Roman Catholic High Jesuit Pope. And they're going to have a meeting in America, and I think they're going to have a big announcement. But there's also during that month a lunar eclipse and a solar eclipse. In addition to, it's the end of a 7-year Jewish Shemitah period where all debts are forgiven. And exactly 7 years ago previous, we had an economic collapse, and 7 years previous to that, it was 9/11. So I was wondering, and apologize for if you might have put this in your newsletter, but what's your take on that, Mr. Terral?
Okay.
And I thank you again, and I will. That's the end of my questions. And God blesses you, sir.
Okay. Yeah, you're very welcome. The what's going on in September as far as the Black Star goes, we today are crossing the Black Star orbit path. This is the place where, if it was here, we would be susceptible to a geological pole shift. It's a 1.6 million mile segment of space that we're crossing today. Now, So I'm looking at the seismic chart knowing that it's about to go down. We've had seismic uptick all the way from January, but when we cross the orbit path, we start making the move to outside orbit position. That's a 90-degree angle position, and we are moving at 66,000 miles per hour. And as long as our velocity is superior to the inbound velocity of the black star, then the magnetic portal connection is going to stretch, and Earth is going to receive lower doses of electromagnetism, and there's a lull coming. So we're going to be going through a lull period until the second week of August. Then things are going to start picking up again. So the time that you're talking about is whenever there's going to be another uptick period. It's going to run all the way to the beginning of December, right? But on the second week of August, we're going to have the lowest number of earthquakes, the 2.5 to 4 magnitude. Those are my indicator earthquakes. It's going to be around 180. That value right now, let me get to that newsletter. That value last week was 290. It dropped this week to 257. That number is going to continue to drop, and then it's going to bounce up and down, obviously, but it's going to be down to 180 by the time we get to outside orbit position. And then the period that you're talking about in September there, I was just going to mention there's a lot of information coming by about a May 28th planetary alignment. I don't see it. There's people that think that that's going to happen. If it does, I'm going to be just shocked because we are going through a lull period at the same time. I'm going to be really surprised if that happens. The period that you're talking about in September, this is near the place where the black star will reach perihelion, where the Earth is in the middle of September. Okay? But it's still beyond Earth orbit path, so that's not a consideration. If you remember 2011 or 12, Obama did kind of the same thing in September that you're talking about, but it wasn't with the Pope. It was a trip that he was making west of Denver or something like that. All of that, to me, that what you just described looks like puppets on a stage, keeping your eyes mesmerized, and keeping you from doing everything but looking up and seeing the black star. It's pretty much the Earth change part. I'm expecting to see 2 7-magnitude earthquakes about a week apart, beginning the middle of August, and that has been like clockwork. Last year, those two.
Terral, are those earthquakes, are they going to be in the United States, do you think?
All of my alignment quakes, with the exception of this Nepal quake, were Pacific Ocean Ring of Fire. And that's what every single backside alignment quake was Pacific Ocean Ring of Fire.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't expect, and it's impossible to say exactly where it's going to happen. It's just Pacific Ocean Ring of Fire. But what I have seen, this Nepal quake that kicked off, the aftershocks that kicked off, then I'm seeing the 6.8 in Japan. Now I'm looking at the depths of the quake. The depths of these quakes over on the Asian side are getting deeper and deeper and deeper.
Yeah, I noticed that the other day. I follow the earthquake maps, and I noticed that the depths are getting deeper. I also noticed that more volcanoes are popping off, and also the one on the coast of Japan is it's coming up even higher, swelling out of the ocean.
Right now, we're at the just crossing Earth orbit path. We're at the peak of the first Earth change uptick period for the 2015 orbit cycle. Those levels, Kilauea level, remember it was cresting?
Yes.
You're going to see that drop. It's going to drop all the way around to August 15th, and then it's going to come up again. So it's like stretching the rubber band. We're stretching it. We're really stretching it, and the seismicity started right on schedule, right at the end of January there, after we were at outside orbit position and after we had our 180 indicator quakes, right? And then we have a jolt value. We have the highest number of my indicator quakes comes in the week after that, around here on the winter side. So last year that value was 536 of these earthquakes, 1 week. This year that was 343. I've got the chart here. Was that number 343? Last year was 536. And this year, so I'm looking at the chart, and there's an O there where we get to outside orbit.
And we're not even halfway through the year.
343, yeah. So we went from 180 to 343, and that's a J. You see that J in the chart for those that are looking. Then that jolt value is predicted ahead of time. So we're going to get to 180 on the far side. The reason that we have that jolt is because the magnetic portal connection stretches and stretches. As it does, on the inside of these magnetic portal connections, they're like umbilical cords. And on the inside, you have active conduits. They're active, and the ones on the outside are passive. The The passive ones give insulation properties to the portal connection. The inner ones are the ones that conduct the electromagnetism, subatomic particles, magnetic waves, all kinds of stuff going through there, conducted from the sun to the earth. That's the source of energy that creates our magnetosphere. No matter what the geologists or the astrophysicists tell you, they want to tell you that it's earth core churning, and it's no. It comes from the sun, and that earth metals are conducting that solar electromagnetism and converting that to heat energy for the core and the magnetic energy that is protecting us. That's why the heliosphere is shrinking 25%, and the magnetosphere is weakening 10 times faster than scientists even expected. They're both weakening at the same time because they are connected, the same thing. So as Earth goes to the outside orbit position, we have the black star Earth magnetic portal connection. That's the one that's stretching. So the reason I can make these predictions is I understand the physics. And I know when we're moving towards the black star and we're moving away from the black star, and whenever the black star is coming towards us. Right? So I'm able to make the predictions just like clockwork. Everything's coming true. Of course, it's not exactly, because it's a dynamic situation. Earth is expanding and contracting, and the USGS is not giving us all the data either. But the shape in my charts is accurate because the USGS, NASA, Jet Propulsion Laboratory are consistent liars. So I got the right. I know I've got the right charts. I've insufficient data. The values are lower than they should be, but it gives me the right shape. So I can see the uptrends and I can see the downtrends. So I know we're going to be at outside orbit position at the second week in August, and then everything is going to start kicking up again. Now, the difference in 2014 from previous years is that when we got behind the sun and started moving towards that outside orbit position, then the volcanism really went down. We would have 0 new volcanic eruptions to 4. But this week we had 6, and we haven't had only 2 weeks in almost 9 months now. There's only been 2 weeks that we had less than 5.
Okay.
Right? So the volcanism is continuing to be on the high end of the scale even through the lull periods. So that's exactly what we expect as the black star gets closer and closer and closer, because as the black star gets closer to the sun, then the black star magnetic portal connection with the sun is connecting and reconnecting. A higher percentage of those internal conduits are becoming active, giving the black star increased electromagnetic potential. Not only that, it's moving closer to the inner solar system, so it's closer to Earth than it is to Saturn, for example, and Jupiter. So imagine that the sun is like an octopus, and it has an arm reached over to the Earth. That's a magnetic portal connection. And has an arm reached over to Saturn and Jupiter. Doesn't have one to Mars because that one was broken. And I believe it was broken by this black star, right? Like Venus is the oddball of it doesn't rotate the right way. It rotates backwards. And scientists just figured out that it's rotating slower.
Okay, well, we got a few more questions here, so let's unmute another caller. And
very good.
Guest 40, you have a question?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you. Welcome to the show.
I just called in here because looking at what the world situation is going on. We got black stars are coming. We got earthquakes that are coming. We got the Jade Helm out there preparing for martial law. We got the 4th blood moons. Tetrads are going to be fulfilled in September. We got an economy crash. I want to know what you think.
It's Ohio Steve, isn't it?
Yeah, I want to know what you think, Terrell. My name's Big Earl. Thank you very much.
No, it's not. Ohio Steve, I know you.
How you been, Terrell? I missed you, buddy. I missed you. I'm on over there on the other chat rooms over there. I just wonder what you think about this 4 blood moon tetrad. You think there's anything behind that? And the biblical stuff. I know you're a Bible man. I like to hear your opinion about Jade Helm and the 4 blood moons. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, the blood moons are not going to have application to us today whatsoever. The thing is, we're living between the 2 veils of Scripture. We're living in a mystery period that the prophets could not even see. That's why our gospel is according to the revelation of the mystery, Romans 16:25. It's the reason that these things remain hidden in God, because if Satan knew, he wouldn't have killed Christ, would he?
Do you think Obama's the Antichrist?
I'm sorry?
You think Obama's the Antichrist?
No. The members of the Antichrist body are all over the planet, just like the members of Christ's body. We are acting out what has already been done twice. And the Antichrist is trying to kill us, but the Antichrist is here right now. He is in Obama. He's in, just like Christ is in you, right? Colossians 1:27, Christ in you, the hope of glory. Antichrist, according to the mystery of iniquity, is inside of Obama and the House of Rothschild and Bush and Hillary and all these guys. But the Antichrist is working in them collectively, just like Christ is working in you and Christ is working in me. And we're the sons of light, and they're trying to kill us, and we've already done this 2 times before. Once in the infinite realm.
Shotgun. They try to kill me, I got a shotgun here for them, so it ain't going to go so easy. But I'll tell you what now, I don't know, Terral. It looks like the world situation looks like it's coming to a full head, don't you think? What do you think about this Jade
Not
Helm?
to a full head.
What do you think about that? That's what I want to know. What do you think about Jade Helm and exercises between July and September? Everything's pointing to September. What's going on, you think?
These are training ops. They are orienting the people that are not going to the underground Ark City so they can be deployed directly into harm's way later in the timeline. This is still all training that's going on right now. This is the way the House of Rothschild keeps these sleepers from waking up, by keeping their hands busy and getting them ready. The police already have military equipment. They're giving them a false sense of security. Now they're bringing the military in to deal with Americans because of civil unrest and stuff like that. That's being created artificially. But in reality, these people are being trained to run right out into harm's way when the Black Star gets here, because there's just not enough room in all the underground Ark cities.
You got your cavern? You still got a cavern? I just wondered if you still had one.
A camera?
A cavern, one of them underground tunnels or whatever.
Absolutely. My cavern's in Arkansas with my survival supplies. I think everybody should have one.
I know, but everybody can't get one of them. I don't know if I want to go in the cave. I tell you what, I'd be claustrophobic. But hey, I just want to get off here real quick.
Okay.
I just want to say hello.
It was really good talking to you. It's been a while.
You too. Yeah, I miss you. Come on over to the other chat room sometime. We'll be looking for you. Take care now.
Thank you so much for the call. I want to let everyone know, too, that Terral and I will be doing some Wednesday night shows. So if you want to become a TalkShoe member and then go into my window and follow me, I will be sending out emails notifying you when we will be out here. I usually don't do my 43503 window on Wednesday night, but like Terral said, he has a problem with weekends. Friday night wasn't good for him, so I'm doing this as a special favor for him, his listeners, and also my listeners. We have another question for you, and for those that are coming into the chat, just give me a minute. I will get you unmuted. Let's go with Arizona. Arizona, you have a question this evening.
Hello. Thank you so much for all your information, Terral. I really admire what you're doing. It's very brave. I have a question. I actually have 3 questions. The first is, from what I'm understanding, the Earth is going to do a complete flip. Is that correct?
The geological pole shift. The Earth is vulnerable to that. It's from the magnetics of the black star. It's not that anything hits us. It's the same force from the sun that keeps us straight up and down, except for another star comes in between us and the sun and wrestles magnetic polarity control temporarily for like a 3-day period. So we have predictions about 3 days of darkness. Right? That's not because of an eclipse. That's because those predictions were made to civilizations in the northern hemisphere. And whenever there's a magnetic polarity conflict between our Earth and that star, then the North Pole is going to be repelled. So when it comes between us, the Earth tips backwards 90 degrees. It keeps rotating, but the ocean follows the laws of gravity, and that's what causes the destruction of all of the shorelines. If you look at the Scallion maps, that's what you're going to see.
Right.
Brand new world there. You get more information on that at poleshift.com. this thing has happened before. Plenty of evidence suggesting that it's
happened. Yeah, I understand that it's happened before. Maybe that's what caused all the rains in the days of Noah. They were just flooded and perished that way. Now, what is going to happen when all this calms down? They're going to come out from the cities, is that correct? They think they're going to be able to come out from the cities and re-inhabit the earth?
Okay, I see what you're saying. That's their plan, to go into the underground arc cities. They release a contagion. That's the mopping up operation. That's the biological weapon and the binary weapon. And that cleans off the rest of the population. And then, when the coast is clear, they emerge from the underground arc cities. That's their plan, but it's not going to work. They are not going to escape. They are building tombs. And when you understand the scriptural part, then there's a mystery of Christ and there's a mystery of iniquity, which is the antithesis. So there's a rapture of the church, 1 Thessalonians 4, and there's a rapture of the wicked. So these guys are going to be thinking they're home free. They're thinking that they're going to expose us to the water and fire of the black star whenever they are the ones that are going into the lake of fire at their rapture. So they're not going to escape, guaranteed.
Right.
Okay,
but
Arizona, could you read the last question kind of quick? We got other callers waiting, please.
Okay.
Did you have one more question, honey?
My last question is are there people with an immunity to these nanobots?
I'm afraid so. It appears that way. At least talking to Deacon John, there's a percentage of people that they cannot incorporate into their plan, into their program. Don't know exactly why, but I think it has something to do with the boron molecule. So this is going to be, you can get a boron supplement from your health food store, and it's a natural antifungal, and there's 24 health benefits, and one of them appears to be that it eats the legs off of these nanites. It's a nanofilament replication inhibitor. If you Google that, nanofilament is one word, nanofilament replication inhibitor. I made a video about it, and I give you the information on how to get the inhibitor in your body. It's in my body. I put it in there every single day to try to keep myself neutralizing a threat that's coming from artificial intelligence. Is what it is.
We are going to get into the health part of it in one of the other shows, so we're just going to have to stay tuned because everything that Terrell is going to try to take us from the beginning to the end, we cannot get in one show. So this is why we're going to do 3 or 4 recordings, and we will cover the health aspect of it. Thank you so much for your questions, Arizona, and we are going to move on. Ohio, welcome to the call.
Yes.
Do you have a question?
Yes, I do. You may have covered this earlier because I was a few minutes late. You keep saying that the black star's there, nobody can see it. Then I'm saying to you, sir, then how do you know it's there?
Very good question. We talked about a little bit of that. First of all, I ran across the documentation about Project Black Star in the Dakota Report. I don't know if you heard that part. The Dakota Report is in the Dropbox folder, and I made a video recently and gave that link so you can read that for yourself. And then it's a little bit complicated, but the genocide connected to Project Black Star and what they're doing with this Jade Helm stuff, this stuff is predicted in that Dakota Report. Without even seeing that there's a black star, it tells me there's something coming. But then one bit of evidence is the seismic pattern that Mr. Armour Bosich tracked back to 1965. The object in 2010 was in Leo. That's where my black star was. It came from the right of Cancer. It moved through Leo, and it created Fukushima. It created Guerrero. And what I've been doing for the last 5 years is telling people when these events are going to happen. This black star is moving left in the orbit diagram. What that means is that it takes longer for Earth to come around in orbit to come into alignment with it. We have associated solar flares from magnetic portal connection convergence, crossing and divergence, and then we have the seismic event, Fukushima, for example, that I predicted. and then Guerrero the next year that I predicted within 2 days. Every year I'm making these predictions. Recently, the focal point was for May the 1st, and we had, just before that, we had the Nepal quake, and then right after that, then we have Indonesia, and we had another big one. Focal point, May 1st, exactly as I said. So since I'm able to make these predictions on the near side and on the back side of the sun, then that should tell you that there's something there. But it was the magnetopause reversal, March 12, 2012, and then the Martian dust storms, March 12, 2012. Mars was right beside Earth in orbit. They happened the same time. The only thing that can turn Earth's magnetosphere around so that the bow shock points out into the Virgo constellation and the tail points at the sun for 28 hours is the influence of another nearby star. So knowing that tells me that there's another star out there, even though I can't see it. So if you read 1 Thessalonians 5, it's going to describe the day of the Lord coming as a thief in the night, and it says destruction comes suddenly. That sudden destruction comes from a springtime crossing event described in the Sumerian text. That's what Nibiru means, planet of crossing. And the crossing date is May the 20th. It's been determined through my research. That's the day that we're on. We just happen to be on right now. For many reasons, May the 20th. It's kind of difficult to explain why. But the thing is that working with the seismic charts, seismic pattern, watching the solar flares, watching them. We haven't even talked about the magnetic North Pole migration. It is migrating in a series of circles, loops, and I've been able to predict the dates that the deal with the magnetic North Pole will turn around and start moving in the opposite direction, towards Siberia, then away from Siberia. And the reason is because the Earth is going around the sun, and we're being influenced by another magnet, which is the magnetic polarity of the black star. So whenever you put all the evidence together, it's circumstantial, but when you put a bunch of it together, make a long list, it says that there's something coming from space. And as it gets closer to the sun is becoming more dormant, and at the same time, our Earth is becoming more seismically and volcanically active. And those are the same warning signs that were given in Scripture, that the destruction's coming. So when I add it all up, keyword all the documents, analyze everything, break it down, it tells me that our sun has an invisible collapsed binary twin that comes to the inner solar system every 3,658 years, and that we are here at that time right now in this moment in history.
Okay. Do you have any other questions, Ohio?
No, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you for your question. And for those that are on the phone, if you wish to ask Terrell a question, please push *8, raise your hand, and we will unmute you and give you a chance to speak. Terrell, tell us exactly, like for September, do you feel that something is going to be, is it going to be the Jade Helm? What do you think is going to happen in September?
I don't think anything's going to happen in September. It's at the wrong time. So
it's a year off, isn't it?
You're talking about September this year?
Yes.
Oh, the Black Star. Yeah, we're crossing Black Star orbit path right now. What we're doing is we're watching these near-side alignment events. That was February 27, 2010, March 11, 2011, March 20th, 2012, right on around till April the 25th of this year. These dates are going later and later in the year until they get to May the 20th. When they get to May the 20th, the Black Star is going to be here. All right? So that's what I'm focused on. September, that's the far side of the solar system. I'm not concerned about that whatsoever. The sudden destruction comes from a crossing event. The crossing, in other words, the sun's going to give us signs because it turns dark when this black star gets right next to it. But before it crosses the Earth orbit path, we don't have any sign that it's even here. You can't see it. That's the reason that the destruction comes suddenly, according to the Scriptures in my mind. So I'm not concerned about
anything. Guest 42 is saying, how can you not see the 7-year pattern of the Shemitah?
How do I not see it? The 7-year patterns?
Yes.
Maybe I'm looking at too much science, too much Scripture. But what the science is telling me is that we're in the danger zone today. When we get around there to September, we're not, unless the black star comes in behind us. I don't see how that happens, because it's way back in the April 25th position. It still has to move a long ways left in the orbit diagram. Right? It only moved 14 degrees in the orbit diagram in an entire year. The year before that, it was 13 degrees. Back in 2010-11, it was 11 degrees. It is picking up and moving quicker, but look at the number of days between April 25th and May the 20th. There's way too many there. The object's going to reach perihelion. I know it's going to go a lot faster, but right now I'm forecasting May 20th, 2016. We're going to have more data between now and then. I can refine that. But the reason May 20th is important is because that's the focal point of Earth threat. So if it comes a little earlier or a little later, we're still vulnerable to a geological pole shift, because the black star will be near enough to us to flip the Earth over. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things that I'm watching. I'm running my investigation scientifically, and I'm using supporting evidence, the astrobiological evidence from Scripture. That's my background. And then we're going to what the lettered agency says. That's what the Dakota report's for. So it's a comprehensive. I don't know of any other Planet X, Nibiru type investigation that is so comprehensive that it covers the science. We're talking, Earth axis shifts. We're talking magnetopause reversals, the solar flare formation. There are patterns in all this stuff. The seismic chart, seismic patterns, the volcanism, what the government's doing with Jade Hellman, all this stuff. It's all making sense that something's coming, but I do not see it happening in September of this year. This is still training operations. I see the backside alignment happening. We're going to go to outside orbit position second week of August, like I said, and then we're going to have a backside alignment event around December the 1st. And you can take that to the bank. I think that's going to happen. We're going to have 3 big solar flares just before that December 1st event. If it does happen later or it happens sooner, then I make an adjustment and I let you guys know.
Now, see, what I have read about the Shemitah, it has to do with the finances. I feel it has to do with the collapse of our dollar and the banks closing and limiting our money.
Well, let's look at it this way. Let's look at it from the House of Rothschild perspective. Let's look at it from the global bankster perspective. They're getting ready to run to their underground arc cities. Do you really want to wake everybody up by stirring up the nest before it's time for you to go? You don't really want to do that. House of Rothschild could have collapsed our economy back in 2008. Remember September 18th?
Yep.
Paulson, Bernanke came out with her 3 pages, and then the House illegally took that 3 pages and created a bill of it, TARP 1, then TARP 2. Quantitative easing to infinity is what we have now, right? Why would you do that if you want to collapse the system? They're supporting the system with paper. The silver short position from JP Morgan was inherited from Bear Stearns, right? Well, why are they even trying to keep silver down? It makes it look like that the dollar's worth something when it's not. The stock markets are crashing up because of the devaluation of your dollar. You think your dollar's stronger just because the other currencies are falling faster. But every fiat currency in history failed, and ours is failing too. That's why $15 an hour is not going to be enough. That's what's in the news right now about minimum wage. $15. It's not going to be enough.
Right, and then the prices of things are getting so high. I mean, it's just like, you have to decide whether you're going to put gas in your car or buy some food for your table.
And they could have it at $5 a gallon if they wanted to.
Well, they can have it at $12 a gallon if they wanted to.
Why did they cut it in half recently? They didn't need to do that. The banksters, the big oil barons, they didn't have to do that, but they did. It's making it easier on the economy. You have more disposable income now because the price of gas went down. Why would they do that if they're trying to crash the system? Why is silver below $20 if it's going to crash? They're making things look better than they are.
Yeah, they're feeding us a good line. And they're also entertaining us with nonsense like people jumping around in pink fairy outfits.
Yeah, they're keeping you mesmerized. Even with Putin and the Ukrainian deal over there. If you just look at that story for a second, what was really happening was the CIA was moving into Kiev, just like they moved in over in Afghanistan, just like they moved in Iraq. These are all CIA operations. They're installing central banks for the House of Rothschild. That's what's happening right there. They're going to wind up in Iran. If they can ever knock Syria over, but the Russians are keeping that from happening. But anyway, the CIA is getting ready to move into Kiev. Putin says, you ain't doing that. Putin knows he knows the Black Star's coming. He knows what's happening. He could take over Ukraine in 2 weeks, easy, using force, but he's not. This is all staged. It's a show. He's more concerned about his underground Ark City program.
Now, let me ask you about these nanobots that are in our bodies. I had heard, I can't remember, I think it was Dr. Dugan that was talking about it, about the nanobots, that they were waiting to infect 99% of the population, and they felt that like 92% of us were infected, and this was like a year or two ago. Are these things like a worm, or are they alive? Do they, like, because you said they have little legs on them? Is it like like having a dog has worms? Is that what it is?
These are like little robots, but they are silicone-based rather than carbon-based.
Do they come out of our body? I mean, like, I don't want to be gross, but do they come out in our waist, or if we blow our nose, can we actually see them?
No, you're not going to be able to see them. Even the people that go to the doctor and you look at this stuff under a microscope, you can't see it. You have to use an electron microscope. We're talking about an object. Remember, a nanometer, 80,000 nanometers is the width of your hair. We're talking about an object that is between 5 and 30 nanometers. This thing is extremely small. But whenever you hook them together, if you guys watch the Transformer movies, you see how these little bitty robots all hook up and make one big thing?
Mm-hmm.
That's what they do inside of you, and they can construct anything inside your body. They can put together a transmitter to transmit. They can put anything together that they want inside of you, and then they can give the command, and all of the nanos stop holding hands, right? And then they disperse, and your body removes foreign materials naturally out of your body.
So this is how they're going to create devastation through viruses and have people become ill.
That's been happening. Inside the Dropbox folder for my subscribers, there's a NSA paper in there, their covert operation. They've been using nanomaterials in Americans since the mid-1970s.
Yes.
Now they've got advanced. I just was talking on the phone before the show with my astronomer. He's sending me information he says they're 50 years ahead. They're 50 years ahead on these technologies that we're talking about. They're way, way farther ahead than we think. They have the capability, but the Black Star is going to kill you. They're going to take out threats to the underground Ark City program. That's what they're geared to do. Just killing people, that's not part of the program. They really don't want to raise the alert. Look at it this way. Imagine you're doing threat assessment and contingency planning for the House of Rothschild, and you are going to underground Ark cities. You cannot determine the size and the magnitude of the Black Star threat. Whenever you're in that position, you do not, under any circumstances, create new threats, because you're just adding to that pile. They do not want us to wake up to what's happening. They want to make things look normal. They're using HAARP. They're using Tesla technology right now to try to help the Earth appear normal. It's not that they're creating the Earth changes. The Black Star's doing that. You have ocean conveyor disruption that is causing the jet stream anomalies. That's creating the weird weather we have right now. In the drought in California, it's not man-made. They're trying to use HAARP to send water to California because the Black Star is drying out the atmosphere. The Mexican weather is moving north now. The magnetic North Pole is moving over to Siberia. So that means the jet stream circulates not around the geographic North Pole, but around the magnetic North Pole. If the magnetic North Pole keeps going, the jet stream is going to continue going north, and we're going to keep having drier and drier and drier air moving north and north like it is in California. That's precisely what's happened. So what
about all these recordings that are popping up on YouTube where these people are hearing sounds in the sky? It sounds like the chauffeur horn, or I feel that is the tectonic plates that are shifting. What do you think about that?
Two types. This happens this year it would have happened just after January the 24th, whenever that magnetic portal connection starts shortening. Earth core starts heating up rapidly. We get that jolt value. You have two sources. One is in the Earth and one's above the Earth. Some of them are skyquakes. That's what they call them, skyquakes. There's a layer in between the magnetosphere and the ionosphere where the electromagnetism that is coming from the black star, whenever we're no longer behind the sun and we start coming around to be between them, Earth gets exposed. We're no longer protected by the solar wind. We get exposed to this other source of electromagnetism. It is interpreted like your radio interprets radio waves. The atmosphere itself is able to translate that electromagnetism into a sound, and that's the sound that you're hearing. It's coming out as like a boom that comes from above. Now, inside the Earth, you have a different situation. You have caverns. You have chambers inside of there that are very moist. Then they are adjacent to a magma chamber, a little finger that comes off a magma chamber. Earth core heats up all of a sudden, and you have unused lava tubes that are being accessed right now. That's why the bulging that's going on in Yellowstone has led to the offshore volcano activity off the coast of Oregon. Well, before you get an eruption out there, you have lava tube plugs that have to break from the last time it was used. Pressures build up between the first plug and the expanding magma chamber caldera. Well, whenever the pressure builds up sufficiently, boom, there's one of your booms. That's one of your sources of your boom right now, and you get an earthquake event too. And that is going to continue to work away from the center of the caldera towards the offshore volcanoes with every orbit cycle. With every time we go around, we have an uptick period and then a lull, uptick period and a lull, and I'm able to predict when we're going to have these noises, pretty much the same way. So that's the two kinds of noises. Caverns can sometimes trumpet sound because of their unique shape. So it's the inside of a trumpet, except for it's going to be in a cavern. So whenever you get this heating up going on, the air inside expands because hot air expands, and then it has to go somewhere, and it goes to the surface. As it's coming through, you get the trumpeting sound as it's working its way in and around, up and down in these corners, and there's another source of your sound right there. And the ancients believed that these sounds are precursors to the type of event that I'm talking about, something coming from space. That's what changes things for them, and you're making note of it right now. Go ahead.
Well, what can people do to survive what's coming at us?
Okay, well, if you're Christian, you don't have to do anything.
Exactly.
It's written about, 1 Thessalonians 4, it talks about that you're going to be caught up to meet the Lord in the air, verse 17 there. And then it says to comfort one another with these words, for that those for whom Christ died that have obeyed our gospel, there's nothing to do. Be cheerful. Get ready, because soon we're about to be standing in glory. The bad people, there's nothing they can do to escape. That's exactly what the verses say, 1 Thessalonians 5, start at verse 1 right there. They will not escape, okay, no matter where they run to. Now, there are those that are in the middle. So these aren't the devil's people, and these aren't the members of Christ's body either. There are people that are destined for heaven, just general population heaven people. There are things that they can do, and these are the general guidelines. You're going to be 250 miles from the coast. You're going to be at least 650 feet above sea level. I recommend 1,000 feet. You're going to be away from any dams. You're going to be away from nuclear power plants. In the United States, there is no safe zone location that is east of the Mississippi River Basin. There is no safe zone over there because you have 200 nuclear power plants. You have to come out of your cave sometime, right?
Yeah.
If you're west of the Rocky Mountain Ridge, there is no safe zone in the United States because you have too many calderas out there. Yellowstone magma chamber, when this stuff erupts, if you look at the Scallion map of the future, there's a gigantic hole over there. And there's a giant inland gulf that runs from Louisiana all the way up to Michigan, too. That is the new Madrid seismic zone. Mm-hmm. That's going to kick off after this seismic activity that we have out west. There's going to be a linchpin event out there that's going to take. I was kind of on that part of the report whenever we stopped doing that. But what I have done is I moved my trailer to Arkansas. where there's lots of caverns. And I signed up over there with a former judge to be his caretaker for his property. His family owns, you can walk around their property for a week. Big, giant place. And they got a cavern that's on there. So it's not that I have to buy a cavern. I saw that up, some of the people up in the chat room. If I bought a cavern, no. I don't buy a boat either, but I have a friend that has a boat, and I have a friend that has a cavern too. So it's very, very important that you shake a lot of hands. That's what survival is making a lot of friends and making a lot of lists of the things that you need. And I encourage you to go. What I encourage you to do is talk to a guy named Michael Slack, preppersandpatriots.net. I interviewed him on my radio show, and he works with real estate people. But if you talk with him, he has an expo that is going to be, it's in September, I think. You can go there, shake hands. You'll get more survival information that you ever want. But instead of going to Hawaii or Germany or something, take your vacation and go to the Ozarks and do what I did. I crawled through a lot of caverns. I shook hands with a lot of cavern owners, and I made friends when I was there. And now I can 4 or 5 survival groups. I can choose which group I want to go to. If a person without resources, that's what you do. You can rent a house there. You can rent a room there. Or you can just vacation there whenever I give you the message that now is the time to deploy. And so those are the kind of things you can do. Then you're going to want to be, that's where to be, but then what type of preparations do you need to make? The first thing on my list was a travel trailer that I'm sitting in right now. When I first began this back in 2009, you don't have to have a travel trailer, but it makes it real convenient for me. But then you're going to have some type of tent or something like that. Remember, you're going into a cavern environment for probably 6 weeks. Something like that. If you're going to go live in a cavern, you better be thinking about long underwear, especially for your kids. 3 pairs of underwear, maybe, even though the average temperature, the temperature is the same, 58, 59, 60 degrees. But believe me, I've been in the caverns. I've been in them for a long time, and it doesn't sound like 60 degrees is very cold. But hypothermia will set in, and especially with children that have small bodies, you're going to have to keep their hands covered, their head covered, boots on, long underwear. So you're thinking along those lines for survival. You're going to need a water purification method. And what I use, I went to the Army-Navy store and got a hand crank with a rock on it. Throw it over in the stream and crank. And then there's a pool shock, chlorine powder. All right? Get the highest percentage you can. It only takes, don't just throw it in there and drink it because I'm mentioning it. Do your research on that. Because it only takes like a tablespoon, and then you're able to make a gallon of stuff that will make 100 gallons. The thing to remember, they say bring bleach, but bleach only lasts for about 6 months. And once you try to purify the water with it, it has a lifespan. These crystals, you can keep them dry and then use them like you need to.
That's interesting, yeah.
The biggest problem for people that escape the coast, the geological pole shift threat, okay, they get by that. The biggest problem they're going to have is drinking bad water. Drinking bad water will kill you very, very quickly. You need a method to restore the stomach flora in your stomach. That's going to be acidophilus pills. Or know how to do it naturally using cabbages and things like that. But this is the mindset that you need to be thinking about. You're going to drink bad water or you're going to eat bad food. It's going to kill your stomach flora, especially in children. And then you're not going to have any way to replace it, and you're just going to get sick and dwindle away. So choosing your survival group leader carefully, very important. And then he's going to be giving you the same kind of advice that I'm giving you right now. And what he's going to do is create an environment to protect your children. If you protect the children, everybody's going to be fine. If you forget and do not make allowances for all your children, you're going to start losing your children, and then you're going to lose morale, and everybody's going to die. That's basically what's going to happen. That's what history teaches us. So learn everything you can about being a survivalist. Join a strong survival group, and then, of course, you need somebody giving you threat assessment and contingency planning. That's the service I provide for my newsletter subscribers. You send me your questions, and I send you answers. And if I don't know the answer, then I know who to send you to in order to get you the answer. So get somebody on your team that you can write, call, ask questions to get the information, because information is really what's going to save you in this type of situation. And there's 3 kinds of people. I like saying this. There's people that make things happen, people that let things happen, and people say, what happened? So you don't want to be that third category, because those people are living in Mad Max, living hand to mouth, day to day, and they wind up casualties. You want to be in a strong position inside of a perimeter, inside of a core position with your survival group, and you have a military contingent on the perimeter, and you have all your food stocks and all your cooking stuff, and you have doctors and things like that. So my advice is hook up with a strong survival group, and then get your materials together, and then be ready to make your move whenever it's time to make your move, which for me looks like May the 20th, 2016. Go ahead.
Are you familiar with the video that popped up on the internet? A man was videoing the caves in Kentucky, that they are cementing grills over them to prevent people from going into the caves?
That's been going on since 2011 orbit cycle. And they're coming out with this bat disease and all this stuff, and it's all a big joke. But when you go to the Ozarks, they say there's like 6,000 caverns there. There's over 10,000 caverns there. So my advice, you're not going out there in the woods and trying to do something like that, because you really don't know what you're doing. Shake hands with a cavern owner. It can be, we're talking about a deep, beautiful, air-conditioned cavern. I mean, it doesn't have to be air-conditioned, but you know what I mean. Someone that's owned. It's a show place. Shake the owner's hand. What if the crap hits the fan? This would be a good place to be. You know, put the little bug in his ear and find out the nearest camping area. That's what I do.
Did you meet with John Moore when you were down there?
John Moore is
friends. Radio?
He's friends with Deacon John, but he's not a big fan of me. From my perspective, it looks to me like they're running a disinformation operation out of his radio show. You remember Lucas that was on there, 2011 orbit cycle? He supposedly invented the 188-day cycle. He accused me. He went over to Revolution Radio, where I'm a bigwig over there, and he called me a mudflap researcher and this and that. And then all of a sudden he's gone. September came along. John Moore made a prediction about September 26th, August the 17th. These are dates out of the Ellen orbit diagram, right? And then September 26th was the next day on the 188-day cycle. It's a day of the Aleutian quake that I predicted, right?
Mm-hmm.
But all of a sudden, Lucas where is he? He's gone now. And then James McCanney comes in. Now James McCanney comes in, the astrophysicist, and he's with John Moore. And he sold the ISON scare. It was a mini solar system. It was controlled. It was like Ellen 2. That's what it was. That would have been the second hyperbolic comet discovered by a Russian, except for they couldn't give the credit. That's why it's called ISON. They went beyond the 72-hour time period for identification. So it couldn't be named after the Russian that discovered it. So it was named after the network. But that would have been the second hyperbolic comet, and there's so many of the keywords that are identical to Elenin and ISON. And who was it that came along to John Moore? It was James McCanney. I've tried to be on the John Moore show, to be able to talk with John McCanney. Let's debate on the science and stuff. I know I can hold my own with anybody on this topic, but nobody will let me. George Norrie, he's featured in my newsletter this week. Sent him a ton of information. He will not interview me for anything. I'm the curse, the plague to those guys. So if they're good guys, why don't they just interview me like you? You're a good guy. Badbaby's a good guy.
Let me tell you, they won't interview me either. You know,
yeah,
and I get blackballed from a lot of these shows and calls too, and it's because I won't hold back the truth. A lot of these mainstream news network stations, they walk on eggshells, and I think that they are just someone's behind them pulling the purse strings. They'll tell you the truth to an extent.
They walk up to the door, but they do not let you come in.
Exactly. You know, when I had Dr. Joy Jeffrey Pugh on, she was on Coast to Coast, and on my show she had said that she was supposed to do 4 hours, and as soon as she started talking about the pineal gland, they went to commercial, they cut her off, And then Tom, the screener, came in and told her that she was done for the night. And she goes, What do you mean? I'm supposed to be on for 4 hours. And they go, nope, you're done. And then they just hung up on her.
That boron molecule I told you about decalcifies the pineal gland exposed to fluoridation. So if you're drinking fluoridated water and you're not taking anything for it, then your pineal gland is calcified. You can't even think straight.
Right.
That's one advantage I have, is I've kept sodium borate in my system now for years. My pineal gland's clean.
So this boron molecule, where do we get that at?
You can get it at your local health food store. It's going to be in a little bottle that says boron on it.
And that cleanses your pineal gland.
Do your research. Go to boraxcures.com and do your research.
Okay, I'll check that out.
Okay.
Very interesting.
And what I use is I'm not going to spend the money on all that stuff, because what I get out of 20 mule team borax is 99% pure sodium borate. That's what I want. And it only takes 3 pinches in your drinking water per day. Right? But again, don't put anything into you because you hear it on the radio. I'm giving you information so that you can do your own research, and then you can talk with your health caregiver, your provider, whoever. Get yourself on a regimen.
Right.
Right? So make sure, just go to boraxcures.com, look it up for yourself. It gives you dosages for different conditions. And I'm telling you, there's 24 health benefits. One of them, clean your pineal gland out. And it'll stop the candida that's in your body too. You have fungus overgrowth. Over half the population has it. We're giving it to one another in our saliva that carries the spores. Candida is the death cycle. You have a life cycle based on bacteria, and you have a death cycle based on fungi. They both belong in your body, but the fungi is supposed to be dormant. You have inside your inner ear, you have bacteria. That's why they say that you can use the same stuff for your stomach in your ear, and you can. But you also have fungi in there. Once you get the fungi overgrowth, the death cycle kicks off, and you have the toxins inside your body from the candida, from the fungi, and then your liver has to process all of that. So then you're going to get sicker and sicker and sicker. You begin having renal failure. Your kidneys are going to start failing too. Whenever you have an advanced condition, there's 4 stages. I've done 2 videos on it. You can Google Terral Black Star. That's the name of my YouTube channel. And then Candida. You should be looking at my videos. There's links in the description box. And there may even be a newsletter link there with information, because I've written about it extensively in my newsletters.
Great. Well, I'll have to go check that out. I do know that you can take the baking soda, maple syrup in the morning to raise your pH level, but I never heard of the borax before.
That's going to raise your pH too, right along with apple cider vinegar. 2 tablespoons per day. What I do is mix. I got a tall glass, and I put in just 2 tablespoons is all it takes. Fill up the glass of water. I drink a third with breakfast, lunch, and dinner with your meals. And then, that's not an inhibitor for the nanites or anything, but there are 18 health benefits just using apple cider vinegar. But that's going to be apple cider vinegar, unfiltered, unpasteurized, with mother. So at Walmart, it's going to be $4 to $5. It's not the little dollar one. When you look in the bottom, it should have a layer of gunk there, the enzymes. That's what you want in your stomach, and it's going to turn your situation around. If you have advanced stage candida, it is going to make you feel sick for a little while because you're shedding the fungus. And the apple cider vinegar is going to actually break down the cell wall of that fungi, and then it's going to turn it inside out. It's going to be guts in your system that eventually is going to be released through your digestive tract or into your bloodstream, through which the liver has to process it again. So you have to be careful. If you have any kind of type of liver condition, treating candida can kill you. So that's why I call it practicing medicine. There's not a one-size-fits-all kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Do your research, talk to your caregiver, and then do what's best. But this is what I have done, because after I had Lyme disease in the Ozarks, then I gave myself an advanced stage of candida, and getting it out of me, it took a little bit of while, and it made me really, really sick. So I'm just telling you from firsthand experience. But once you get rid of it, you're walking on air. You feel so much better. If you're waking up in the morning with a clouded head and it's really difficult for you to wake up, then what you want to do is you gather all the saliva in your mouth. This is when you first wake up. Gather the saliva and spit it out. Then gather yourself another bunch of saliva there and spit it right on top of a glass of water. Clear glass, and then watch it for 5 minutes. If you see these stringy stuff, saliva is lighter than water. It should just float on the top. If you get this slimy stuff that's falling down to the bottom, if you look really, really close, you're going to see little black dots around it, like pepper. Those black dots are spores, and that is candida that you're transmitting to your children. So you want to stop that, and you can do it very simply with apple cider vinegar or advanced treatment with the boron, with the sodium borate. But I use both, so I don't want any of that stuff happening to me.
The boron, you just put that in water also?
Well, go to the website, boraxcures.com, and in their search engine there, put in your condition, and then you're going to go to a doctor or some type of practitioner, and they're going to give you the dosages and things like that. Now what I do is I use a pinch. So little people have smaller pinches. Big people have bigger pinches. It's based on your body weight. Maximum dose is a quarter teaspoon per day if you are an average-sized person, so you weigh 180 pounds. If you're only a 100-pound person, your maximum dose is only 1/8 of a teaspoon per day, 1/8 of a teaspoon, right? So what I did is I just took a little measuring deal, cut out that much, divided it into 3, and realized how big of a pinch I needed to keep myself under the quarter teaspoon dose. So I weigh 175 pounds. And that's what works for me. So now I can just feel it in the little. A lot of people think that 20-multine borax is soap. It's not. That's not what sodium borate is. It is an emulsifier. So it makes your soap work better. It's not soap at all. But in a lot of countries, you cannot even buy this stuff. The fact that you go down to Walmart and get a 5-pound box for $5 or something is, you should be feel honored that you have the opportunity, because like in Australia, they can't buy it. A lot of places, you can't. And whenever you buy 1 box, you're going to have a life supply for your entire family.
And it wouldn't hurt to buy a couple just in case you can't ever go get them again.
Well, I'm telling you, I was sent, when I lived in Arkansas, 2 little, by Zeta Girl, love her to death. She's one of my researchers. She sent me 2 little old 4-ounce coffee containers, and I'm still working on the first one 3 years later, and it's not even halfway down yet. It takes so little of this stuff that to get the 24 benefits. So, but again, I don't want to keep everybody out of trouble. I got problems with this at Revolution Radio before.
Yeah, well, I have a disclaimer on my window that there is holistic information given out, but it's not to be used to diagnose or treat disease.
Okay, yeah, I see one of your guests said that Morgellons is another fake disease. Morgellons is not a fake disease. Morgellons is cancer of the silicone filaments. It is uncontrolled replication of the silicone fibers that are in our body. So you asked if there's some people they can't work with. These are the people with Morgellons they can't work with because their body rejects the fibers. That's why they're coming out of their arms, and these little fibers are coming out of their legs, out of their skull, because they replicate uncontrollably, and then they have to be removed. So you cannot put nanites inside of somebody that has that problem. So there's medical conditions that exclude people from being interfered with by the nanotechnologies. Go ahead.
Okay, we're coming up on the last 15 minutes. Is there something that we have not covered that you would like to get out there?
Well, you can tell everybody again where to go get my information.
Yeah, okay.
We did hit on quite a few topics tonight, more than I thought we would be able to.
Yes,
really
we did.
To very much depth. But so you can get my information, TERRAL03.com. I put out a weekly newsletter, and if you go to I would really appreciate it if you go to my YouTube channel, because my old one got deleted. I had over 12,000 subscribers. I had to start over again, so now I only have about 3,000. So if you go to Terral Black Star on YouTube, then you will get my 15-minute update report that comes out every Thursday about 2 o'clock. And that link goes into the top of each newsletter. So when you get my newsletter, you have a 15-minute video right at the top that you can listen to while you're going through the rest of the information. Then the Bible information that's on my website, terral3.com, that is my pride and joy. Really, really love that. And newsletter subscribers that send me questions. So I love answering Bible questions, especially whenever it's going into the newsletter and it benefits, the other readers and things like that. Then 9/11 section, not a lot of interest in 9/11. We're not going to do anything about it. The puppet government in Washington, D.C. is in on it, but we can help to identify the enemy with that. And then the 9/11, the Dakota report is what really hinged my 9/11 work with the Project Black Star work, got me on the right path. So try to get the Dakota report.
Okay, guest 59 wants to know, how can the moon be lit up on one side and the sun has clearly set behind it?
The moon has clearly set. Well, the moon is going to be half lit all the time, just like the Earth, just like Jupiter and all the planets, because that's the sun side. But the dark side is always going to be dark. So what you're asking about is Earth is our position relative to. So whenever it's a full moon, then the Earth is between the sun and the moon. Whenever it's a new moon, then the moon is between us. Right? That's pretty much how it works. Quarter moon, you're looking at the right side of it from the northern hemisphere. We're looking up, right side. You can tell a 7-day-old moon because it's exactly a quarter. 14-day-old moon is full. So when you're saying how it can be, it's just light shining from the sun.
Like I said, we've got 15 minutes left. I want to ask you a few questions about CERN. And what do you think they are doing with CERN? And do you feel that they are playing with fire, opening other dimensions?
Okay. They turned CERN on in March because we were about to pass between the two stars. And that's what turned Earth's magnetosphere around. And as the black star gets closer, they don't have any explanations. They don't have any explanations for the magnetopause reversal of March 12, 2012, and they do not have any explanations for when the same thing happens again and we catch them trying to remove the information from the servers. What CERN does, it gives the elite the ability to turn this thing on and to have everybody talking about it, and when the black star does something, they go, hey, it's CERN. The thing is, if you understand the math, you're going to realize what they're trying to do is impossible. Okay, but it's not going to stop them from running all these stories and everything. In other words, you have an equation, everything's got to equal out in the equation. All I see them doing with CERN is burning up more magnets and blowing more fuses. I believe that's what's going to happen. And they're going to use CERN for whenever Earth's magnetosphere flips out. If you listen to BP or Earthwatch, he's saying, look, they turned CERN on, they had an earthquake. So the black star caused the earthquake. The black star is causing the earth changes. It's causing global warming.
Mm-hmm.
It's causing Jupiter's core to liquefy. Venus's retrograde rotation is slowing down because of the black star. Dust storms on Mars, black star. But that now, they had HAARP. They can't blame magnetosphere things necessarily on HAARP. This gives them another avenue for their disinformation. In my view, there's not enough time for them to fully develop that technology before the black star gets here. Therefore, to me, it's another smokescreen.
Interesting. Did you know that the statue that they have in front of the CERN machine, the goddess of destruction, that they had something similar to that in front of the Twin Towers? Did you know that?
I didn't realize that, but that's going to be an ornament to capture your eye, to keep you focused on that, rather than looking up. From my perspective, Project Black Star, that's the way that I would interpret that.
Yeah. Okay, well, are there any other guests out there that would like to type a question in the chat or raise your hand? Push *8 if you would like to ask a question. We will allow you to call in and ask a question the last few minutes of the show.
Okay,
I want to thank you, Terrell. A lot of people are typing in the chat. Great interview, great show. I just want to thank you so much for all the research that you've done and the fact that you've come out here. I know you don't like doing interviews at night, but, my show's out here at night, honey.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. I knew we would work something out.
Well, like I said, I usually am out here on Friday nights, and since we are going to come out here and cover many, many different subjects, we want to get into the chemtrails and how they tie it into the targeting and the frequencies and that. So we are going to come out here probably 2 or 3 more times and talk. And I will, like I said, if you want to go in and join TalkShoe and get into following my call, I will send out a notice to you and let you know when we're out here. Also, Terrell, that was great today when you put up the YouTube video letting everybody know we're going to be out here. I want to thank you for that.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And every little bit that we can do to get more people looking at the black star gives us a better chance of collectively actually making some type of a change. It's possible to wake up enough people so that we cause a civil war. It's possible. Problem is, AI is going to run the simulation first and start neutralizing people. So it makes me wonder how big of a wave that we really want to make. But I don't know. I'm a soldier and a Christian, and I believe that it's my duty, as a son of day, to report on what I see here. It's very difficult to stand up in heaven and expect a reward whenever I didn't do my due diligence, come out here and share with you guys right here in the flesh. So I'm looking forward to the heavenly reward more than anything. And I hope that others will be inspired maybe just a little bit, and we'll get more attention to what you're doing here on your radio show. And remember, on Thursdays, every Thursday, I give a Black Star Update report for the first hour of Liberation Nation. That's it, from 4 to 6 with Deacon John. Many times I host the show. Deacon's an attorney, and a lot of Thursdays he's in court, tied up in court. So a lot of times I'm hosting. Last week I was there all by myself, and you can call into that show and ask questions just like you're asking on this.
We have a guest that wants to know how to go to your webpage and donate again.
Okay, that's I'll type it right in here. www. No, it's no www. http Terral03.com, like that. And then there's a subscription button if you want to be a subscriber. It's $25 per year. And like I was telling to, what's his name, Ray from Colorado, if all you have is a few bucks and you want to have access to the information, then you can have access to it, and you can share any information in the Dropbox folder with anyone you wish. Just copy it, paste it, send it out, and you can share my newsletters with everybody. And just save the Dropbox folder link. That is my proprietary property. That's the way I support the research. So save that, but reproduce anything that you want inside and share it with others. And so they can, if you just make a $1 donation, so people send me $10, $5, something like that. Every penny helps. And then I'll be sending you the Dropbox folder link and that information. Love to do that.
Well, thank you so much, Terrell, for spending time. And for the last-minute invitation, I was surprised when I said, why not do it tonight? And you said, okay.
Yeah.
So,
love the opportunity.
My situation here is I was going to take the summer off. I broke a bone in my back, and so I'm stuck here in the house anyways. And I do have workers coming over to work on the farm some. So if we do have a show scheduled and I have a worker show up, I will have to reschedule that show. But I will try not to have that occur. I will try to know what's going on beforehand. But we're just going to have to let everyone know we got to have a little leeway here. But we are going to be coming back out here, and we are going to talk some more about some of the things that are going on in our country, and also the health part of it. We want to give out information to help others that are out there. And it's funny. I'm a Christian too, and the only reason I've made it this far is because I'm just the clay. He's the potter.
There you go. Let me give you just a little bit of advice on your injury there. Lysine. Do you use lysine?
Yes, I do have some, but I don't use it.
Yeah, one, like right when you wake up, before you eat, and then one in the evening. And if you have a condition, you're going to go 1,000 milligrams in the morning, 1,000 in the evening, and then you can reduce it after your condition's gone. Just 500 a day is really all that you need if you do not have a condition. If you ever had a cold sore, you might not ever get another one. It's going to allow your body. The great thing about lysine is it combines with no other element compound on Earth. It's amino acids, way too small, and it sticks to proteins. So it's going to make the protein sticky, so that the cells cell division is amplified. I mean, it makes it really, really great, and then cell reconstruction. So that you're injured, so your cells are going to they're going to rebuild themselves much more efficiently if you have just a little bit of lysine in your system.
Well, I guess I'm going to have to take one tonight and get myself on it, because like we had spoke earlier, my health is really failing.
And you might have advanced stage of candida. Do your spit test. Go to the website and do the spit test. And if you have that droopy stuff coming out, that means you have candida. That is hindering your healing process.
Mm-hmm.
So get the candida out of your system. But remember, it means you got to shed it. So you're going to feel bad until you do. But once you get it out, your body will begin working so much better. Your head will be so much clearer, and it will heal so much faster using just those few little, along with a healthy diet, of course. Then that should put you ahead of the game. In 2 or 3 weeks, you should start noticing remarkable improvement.
Well, I appreciate the information, and I'm sure everybody out here appreciates the information, and we just want to keep you in our prayers. I heard one of the guests say that you were sick not too long ago, so we will keep you in our prayers.
Actually,
and, even just being out there doing the work that we do, the research that we do, it does stir the kettle where they don't want us here, so that threat's always there. But we will keep you in our prayers. I will keep in touch with you. And I don't know whether we're going to come out here next Wednesday. I will probably know the first of the week. And if not, no workers coming over and I'm not too busy, maybe we'll schedule another show to come out next Wednesday.
Okay. Yes, it's just easy, just like today. Just let me know, and I'm happy to work with you and share.
Thank you so much, sweetheart, and God bless you, and God bless everybody on the call. Thank you all for joining us, and I appreciate it. I hope you enjoyed the show.